Well, good evening. It's June 7th, our daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Dana. Uh, with many more to come, and joy and happiness. It is Journal 71, T+65, 35 days left until my 100 days are completed. Uh, Today I'm doing Home Alone again, as Leslie's with Dana and Craig and Sadie and Oliver and Rona, Craig's mom, who's out from Florida. It's a good day, and I hope they're having a wonderful time. It's filled with all kinds of good stuff, uh, not the least of which is dinner tonight, which I can only dream about. Um, the other day I was talking about obstacles, and it's a subject that I spent a lot of time uh, working on, learning about, and sharing with shop owners across the country. Uh, and members of the distribution community and manufacturers as well. And I want to share something that I picked up a while ago and I found instrumental in helping me navigate the rocky shoals of life, and this illness included. And I'll tie that together at the end, hopefully. Uh, it was out of a book entitled Flight of the Buffalo, uh, which came out probably in the 90s, early 90s, very early 90s, and was the book that probably started my journey on becoming profoundly interested in leadership and management, among other things, I guess. And in that book, the authors suggested that the way that you achieve success is not that complicated. The first thing that you have to do is define it, and that only makes sense really when you think about it. You can't hit a target that's not been well defined. Um, so the first thing that you need to do if you want to be successful is to define that success, identify your goals and objectives. Uh, the second thing I found remarkably interesting, and that was what's standing in the way of that success. And the assumption is what's fascinating to me. The assumption is that if you know what success is, if you've defined it and it's clear, it's defined clearly enough, then you should be able to achieve it, right? Just, you know what it is, go out and do it. And if you can't go out and do it, or if you haven't gone out and done it, then you have to ask yourself what obstacles stand in the way. What's stopping you from getting to where you need to be, achieving what you need to achieve. And then the most fascinating of these 4 points is the determination of who owns the obstacles. But think about that for a minute. I mean, if somebody else owns the obstacle, there's not a whole lot you can do to remove it unless they're willing to participate, right? I mean, if someone else owns the obstacle, if it's their obstacle, if it's something that's inhibiting them from doing what they need to do, what are you going to do about that? What can you do about that? Uh, so you have to determine who owns the obstacle once you've determined what that obstacle might be. And then it's a matter of doing whatever you need to do as a coach, a mentor, to remove that obstacle. Now, obviously, it's different if the obstacle is yours. I'd like to say that we have more control under those circumstances, but I'm not sure that I can, because sometimes those obstacles are so deeply embedded in our conscious and subconscious minds that it's really difficult to move them. However, it's not impossible. And I've said before that if someone else has done it, then you can't call it impossible anymore, because it's obviously possible. It may not be possible for you, and then you got to figure out why, right? If someone else can do it, then you ought to be able to do it. And if you can't do it, You ought to be able to figure out why. Now, you may not be able to do it under the same circumstances. You may not be able to run as quickly as they run for as far as they can go, but you probably can run for as far as they can go. It'll just take longer, unless there's some other physical limitation standing in your way. But I found this really fascinating because, one, it supports the idea of self-actualization, right? Getting what you need, determining what it is that you need, and then going out and getting it, achieving it. And because it talks about obstacles and limitations, and my experience has taught me, at least, that in most instances, almost all of the limitations that I've experienced in my life have been self-imposed limitations. Before anybody else has imposed those limitations on me, I've imposed them on myself, and then had to work twice as hard to get rid of them, frankly. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, because it's not. Now, how does this tie into an illness like primary myelofibrosis or any other chronic illness with difficult treatment? I'd go back to the same idea of those obstacles being self-imposed, those limitations being erroneous in most cases, and blindly accepted by the majority of us. And if you can put yourself in a strong mental place, if you can go ahead and deal with those limitations and those obstacles with an attitude of, yes, I can, or yes, I will, then you've accomplished 90% of what you're going to need to accomplish in order to be successful. So, in the case of an illness, define what being healthy is all about. I don't think any of us ever think about it until it's taken away from us. I don't think, most of us just go on blindly thinking that because we're getting along and we're healthy and we're in decent shape, that it's going to continue that way. Ha! Let me tell you for a fact, that can be very, very dangerous, because that's not true. Things can change in a heartbeat. And so define what good health looks like. What are you going to be able to do that you can't do now? Is it something that you could have done before? Not difficult then. But what does good health look like? What does being a healthy human being look or feel like? What obstacles stand in the way? Well, certainly there are going to be biological and chemical obstacles that stand in the way. In my case, it was 2 mutant genes. And getting rid of them was what we needed to do in order to achieve better health. So the obstacle was the disease. And the disease was being caused by these 2 mutant proteins. So who owns the obstacle? Well, obviously, in the case of a disease, you own the obstacle. I own the obstacle. It's happening in my body. Then what can we do to remove it? In my case, again, removing it, what you had to do to remove it is significant. It's severe. But it needed to be done in order to achieve my definition of success. So I think that those 4 elements, when you put them together, not only in the case of recovering from something like PMF, primary myelofibrosis, or any other of the myeloid cancers, or any cancer for that matter, require a certain positive mindset that won't accept the fact that you're not going to be successful. That says we're going to find a way to get through this and succeed, going back to the life that we loved, and ensuring that we get to spend as much time here on the planet as possible. But it's just as valid, maybe even more so, when it comes to business, when it comes to life in general. and not only getting through it, but enjoying that success that most people find so elusive. So I'll leave you with that thought for tonight. If you want to define success, identify your goals and objectives and define what success looks like to you. Figure out what kind of obstacles are standing in the way. Figure out who owns those obstacles and do whatever you can to help someone else remove them, or what you can do to remove them yourselves. And then move to that level of success and develop some new goals and objectives that'll take you even further. Until tomorrow, which is our son's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Ryan. A healthy, happy birthday to you, with many, many more to follow. I'll see you then, and stay well and take care. Bye-bye.